Hello, everybody. This is Empowering Democracy. This will be a Dump the Corruption show. I'm your host, Joe Firestone. Joining me is my good friend, Dee Pierce, the co-host of the Around the World with Brandy and Dee show.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
And I'm very happy you're here. Thank you. Okay, and we have someone here. Oh, it's Dee. It's Dee. Okay, I had three more Democrats whose fundraising I was going to cover tonight, at least one by popular demand. So let me start to go over the details for that one. We had only three to cover tonight because it was the last three of the 25 regular Democrats that we planned to cover, and perhaps it's very appropriate to begin with the honcho Democrat of them all in the House, specifically Nancy Pelosi. So let's do that. And here's Nancy Pelosi's race for 2022. Hers was California District 11, 2022 race. She was, of course, the incumbent. She was the winner. She raised, as we see here, $25,070,651.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, but you know what? There was another Democrat who raised, I believe, just as much. I covered her some time ago. I'll check back and see exactly what she raised. But, of course, it was Katie Porter, who raised an amazing amount in her race. But Nancy Pelosi raised that much. She spent $2,776, $2,776,000 more, and she ended with $3,593,729. Her opponent, a Republican by the name of John Dennis, raised $975,050 and spent $918,098, ended with $56,952. We ought to note here outside spending by candidate, and I have to say, I find this very strange. There was $10,297 in outside spending from super PACs or carry committees, something like that. But there was $55,664 in opposition to Nancy Pelosi, in outside spending. We'll check the details on this a little later. But let's get to the candidate page. And Nancy Pelosi got 84% of the vote, which I believe was a larger percentage of the vote than she got in the primaries. Anyway, John Dennis got 16.0% of the vote. So he got the rest of the votes. I don't know what happened to the Republican who we just saw opposing her. He doesn't seem to be there, okay, at all. So, no, this says John Dennis. No, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. The Republican was John Dennis. So, let's look at the source of these contributions. Okay, Nancy Pelosi had raised $12,325,626 in small individual contributions, less than $200. I have to say that is a surprise to me. That was 49.16% of what she raised. But her large individual contributions were 9,999,649. Those, of course, are contributions from well-off people who can afford to contribute more than $200. That was 39.89% of what she raised. Then there were PAC contributions of 1,454,400, 5.8% of what she raised. So she fails the litmus test based on the nearly $10 million in large individual contributions and the nearly $1.5 million from the PACs. So anyway, she clearly fails the litmus test on those grounds. The 1,903,687 is in another category. It is really strange to have so much money in another category, but there's no breakdown of that category. Okay, at Open Secrets, the Republican John Dennis had. Let's see if Nancy Pelosi had any self-financing. I forgot to check that out. No self-financing for her. Every dollar came through contributions. She didn't spend a bit of her own $130 million on this campaign. John Dennis raised almost $700,000 in small individual contributions, but he raised $263,565 in individual contributions from well-off people, so he fails the litmus test on those grounds too. So both of the candidates fail, the litmus test. I'm a little curious. I don't find it surprising that Nancy Pelosi failed, the litmus test, but I do find it surprising that she raised so much in small dollar contributions. I mean, why would... I don't know. That's awfully strange to me. But I'm going to look at outside spending here, even though it wasn't that much. So she got very little money from super PACs. It's really amazing. I would have thought the super PACs would have been all there for her. But the Swamp PAC, which is a super PAC, gave her $37,000. That was her biggest contribution from super PACs. All the other contributions from super PACs were small. I'm going to check PAC funding here. Her PAC funding. She raised $1 million from business PACs and almost $319,000 from labor PACs, $76,000, nearly $76,000 from ideological PACs. We do not have PAC category data for John Dennis, so that was that. Okay, so I would have thought she would have gotten a lot of money from uh, her own leadership pack or the Democratic Majority Pack, which also she controls. But she did not directly get any money from those sources, according to Open Secrets. She was just involved in having them spend a lot of money on the part of other Democratic candidates. Let's look at some of the sector data, if there is any. There might not be any sector data here. Uh, so she got a huge amount of money from a sector called the other sector. $6.7 million from the other sector. Somehow she managed to avoid breaking it down, okay, into industries. She got $572,000 from miscellaneous business, okay, which again there's a lack of transparency there. She got $1,246,520 from finance, insurance, and real estate. And you would certainly expect that since her own interests in real estate or private interests are so large. She got $768,000 from the communications and electronics industry. And I won't go into the others. Oh, $834,012 from the healthcare industry. That's a lot. And lawyers and lobbyists, $613,641. So that's illuminating as to where her dollars came from. Okay, let me see what I can find out from the industries category. Whoa. From the retired industry, she got $5.7 million. That's probably where a lot of those small donations came from. Health professionals, $544,877. I'm not going to go through all those, but she had a wide range of industries contributing considerable dollars to her. In the high thousands, in the hundreds of thousands, for example, TV, okay, and movies and music, 336,385. Real estate, 381,052. Lawyers and law firms, 466,305. Education, 521,507. Health professionals, 544,877. And of course, retired, that 5.7 million that I read off before. So that gives a profile of who our industries were. See if there's any more information in the contributors tag. 69,065 from the University of California. 30,502 from Comcast Corp. Brownstein Hyatt et al., nearly $29,000. From Alphabet, that's Google, $27,472. From Wells Fargo, $26,364. From Walt Disney, $23,350. Not gigantic contributions. From Centene, $15,806. Centene is a notorious company uh, in the pharmacy area. Surprised they gave her so little. Anyway, so that's her financial profile, as I indicated before. She easily fails the litmus test, but these financial records for her district race do not tell the tale of how her political action committees, like the Democratic majority pact, corrupted other races with PAC money. So I will go away from this one now, and I will share the second of our three candidates for tonight, Al Green of Texas. From the Texas District 9 race, he's a longtime congressman, Al Green is. He was in a very Democratic district. He did not raise much. He did not spend much. He raised $406,713, spent $380,124, left with cash on hand of $266,395. His Republican opponent raised $1,111, almost nothing, spent $5,365, almost nothing. There was outside spending of $156 in support of Al Green. No other outside spending in the campaign. Let's now look at the candidates tag. Al Green won with 76.7% of the vote. He had small contributions of $5,199, which was 1.28% of what he raised. Excuse me a second. I just had to take a couple of pills. And he had large individual contributions. In other words, contributions of greater than 200, which had to have been from well-off people. 224,924, that was 55.3% of what he raised. His PAC contributions were 181,500, so he fails a litmus test based on his large individual contributions and his PAC contributions. So he didn't raise much money, but what he raised was not in the small dollar donation category. So the rule, excludes him, or I should say, fails him as far as the litmus test is concerned. So that's two of the three candidates. Our third candidate is Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. But for some reason, I had trouble bringing up his page earlier. I think I might have more success if I find his state, which is South Carolina, and then I search within South Carolina. I'm not sure where in South Carolina he's from. I'm not sure what district. I don't have that off the top of my head. but let me see if I can bring him up just by entering his name within South Carolina, his last name. There he is. I tried to bring him up under Jim Clyburn before. I tried to bring him up under James Clyburn before. Turns out he's under James E. Clyburn, South Carolina District 6. And so I'll now share the summary data for him. Steve Wilpern says, I hate that guy. Me too. He basically did more to beat Bernie than anybody else in 2020. He was the incumbent and he was the winner in the South Carolina 6th. He raised $3.570 million and spent $3.256 million, ended with cash on hand of $2.3 million approximately. That 3.570 was what the average Democratic congressman raised in 2022. So he did not raise more than the average. His opponent was Duke Buckner, who raised $188,793 and who spent $187,702. Outside spending by candidate, Clyburn got $5,585 supporting him. John McCollum, who was a Republican in this race, got $8 opposing him. So that was the outside spending. It was small in this race. Let's go to the candidates page and see how that money was raised by Jim Clyburn. Oh, he won with 62.1% of the vote in his district. So, if I had to guess, I would have guessed that he won with 85% of the vote in his district, but not so. There seems to be a little bit of unpopularity there. In small individual contributions, he raised $181,254, which was 5% of what he raised. In large individual contributions, he raised $1,349,481. That was nearly 38% of what he raised. The rest, which was about 58% of what he raised, was $2,056,500 in PAC money. It'll be interesting to see how that PAC money was distributed. I'll take a look at that now. From business PACs, he raised $1.7 million. From labor PACs, okay, remember he's a Democrat, he got only $254,000. And from ideological PACs, he got $62,400. So, all that is very interesting. By going to sectors, CU went big for him. Finance, insurance, and real estate was $613,050 from finance, insurance, and real estate. He got big bucks from energy and natural resources, $230,000 from communications and electronics, Lawyers and lobbyists, $322,225. Health, $331,210. Miscellaneous business, $996. So that's all that needs to be mentioned here, I think. Industries, pharmaceuticals and health products, 100,100. Commercial banks, 92,500. Public sector unions, 84,500. So that's where his money came from. Hospitals and nursing homes, $69,930. His contributions were widely dispersed. Obviously, he fails the litmus test based on the large individual contributions that he got and his PAC contributions, which were very, very substantial. So all three Democratic House incumbents, Democratic winners tonight, bite the dust. Jim Clyburn and Nancy Pelosi very handily failed the litmus test.
Mm-hmm.
Al Green failed it also, but raised far less money than the other two. I'm curious to see whether Nancy Pelosi was the biggest fundraiser on the Democratic side. Wait a minute, this got screwed up. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look again at Katie Porter. We remember Nancy Pelosi raised about $25 million in the 2022 elections. Katie Porter, running in the California 47th with a very tight race, raised $25,650,290. So I don't know if she raised more or Pelosi raised more. Okay, I have to go back to Pelosi again. Just see, it's $25,650,000, $25,650,000, and Pelosi $25,070,651. So the biggest fundraiser among all the House Democrats was Katie Porter, by just, what was it, about $400,000 or $500,000. She beat out Nancy Pelosi, but Nancy Pelosi's money, 49% of it came from small individual contributions. Whereas Katie Porter's money I think there's a slight difference there. Katie Porter was supported very strongly by small contributions as well. She got 14,267,861 in small contributions, which was 55.62% of what she raised. So I wasn't surprised by those figures in Katie Porter's case. I was surprised that she relied so heavily on small contributions in Nancy Pelosi's case. So now we have done all the conventional Democrats. We have completed them. They all failed, the litmus test. We also saw all of the 95 CPC members fail the litmus test too. So the conclusion, based on this sampling of Democrats and based on the full population of CPC members, is that, which altogether, if we put together 95, and the 25, we're looking at 120 Democrats. Every one of them failed, the litmus test. I'm going to project, and I'm going to say no Democrat passes the litmus test if these Democrats did not. Next week, most probably on Tuesday, I am going to start, on the Republicans. We'll survey at least 25 of the Republicans. I may do 25 of the Republicans and 25 of the Freedom Caucus members. I may do that. I'm just, sort of running that around in my head against what else we have to do here and dump the corruption programs. But what I want to do now is to review once again the reason why we're doing this. We have been going over fundraising of the House members because we are trying to show that everybody is bought, in the House. And we are feeding into the narrative that the Congress does not represent us because its members are bought by big money. And we're in the process of showing that it's very likely that the big money has bought everybody in the House. That's through large individual contributions and PAC contributions, and in many cases, important cases, through super PAC contributions. Now, those contributions, of course, are not directly to the candidates, but independent expenditures, so-called independent expenditures, I say so-called, because I don't think they're very independent. Those expenditures could be repudiated by the candidates, but they are not repudiated by the candidates, generally speaking. They are generally gratefully accepted. In some cases, there's obvious collusion between the candidates and the independent spending from the super PACs. I should say the so-called independent spending from the super PACs. So, why are we doing this? We are doing this because we are trying to make the point that if we want a representative government, that is a government that represents we, the people, we, the 99%, we must get the toxic money out of politics. And that we must do so by making that money toxic to the candidates who take it. Now, we recognize that we can't do this through passing legislation because we've just said all the representatives are bought. Why should they pass the legislation needed to get big money out of politics? They're all benefiting from it. Such legislation is not going to pass the House. Not going to pass the House. So it will never even get to the Senate. It will never get to the president's desk. It's never going to get to the Supreme Court for review. It's just not a factor. We can't get it through the conventional course of pressuring our representatives. We have to make the removal of toxic money from politics imperative through our own actions, through the actions of the voters. How can this be done? By the voters following a rule when voting as to who they might vote for and who they cannot vote for. So, I do want to bring up that rule once again. I may have to go back a little ways to find it because I didn't think to prepare it, but I'm sure it's not too far down in my history. And I do have it, and now I will share it for you once again. Here is the rule that people must follow. Vote against every candidate except those who won't take money from wealthy corporations, individuals, PACs, or party committees, because the party committees launder money, basically, from the wealthy corps, individuals, and PACs, and candidates who also repudiate all super PAC and carry committee support. That is the rule. Our objective as a movement, because we are trying to build a movement, not having much success so far, but if we can build this movement, it is obvious from the surveys I'm doing of the representatives, and it will be obvious based on the surveys I will do of the Republicans, that not one member of Congress and not one candidate taking big money in the 2024 elections would be elected to Congress in 2024. Nor would any presidential candidate taking big money be elected. Nor would any state legislature candidate taking big money be elected. Nor would any candidate for door catcher taking big money be elected. The incumbents would all be swept out of office, and they would not be replaced by people who take any big money. And that is our objective. It is to clean up our politics by using a new broom that will sweep all of the incumbents out of office and all the candidates who take big money out of the political arena. If we do that, the whole leadership structure in Congress and the executive branch will be disrupted, will be gone. And then we will have these new candidates who have gotten elected without any recourse to big money. We will have them in Congress, and one of them as the President of the United States. And we can make a new start because of the further threat of using the rule. The new people who take over will not take any big money. They will turn to the people for their support. They will turn to the 99%. They will run the elections with money they raise from us, who don't give more than $200. That is what will happen. That is the only practical way to proceed to create our representative democracy. If we do that, and everybody must do that, if we do that, we have the best chance of getting Medicare for all, student debt elimination, the Green New Deal. Yes, what about pharmaceuticals?
Better pricing.
Better pricing on pharmaceuticals, because they'll have to bargain under Medicare for all with the government. Because we get Medicare for all, we're likely to cut total healthcare spending by 50%, from $4 trillion down to $2 trillion per year. The other $2 trillion will stay in our pockets, and we can use it for other things that we need. But it's not simply Medicare for all. We need to stop the wars also. We have a president and a foreign policy team now that supports the 800 bases around the world and all kinds of small wars, and the Ukraine big war, and the war the U.S. is currently planning with China, which must not happen. The Ukraine war also must end because it risks a nuclear war. Think about it, everybody. If we allow the elections of 2024 to come down to a choice between some Trumpist, including Trump, or Joe Biden, these wars will continue. Trump may end the Ukraine war, all right, but he'll go right on planning for a war with China. We know that because of what he was trying to do when he last was president. But this is not about just Trump and Biden. It's also about new rules for Congress, rules that give power to backbenchers in Congress. Who are the backbenchers? They're the ones most of us elect. The leadership is a relatively small group of people who, of course, have been corrupted totally by the big money, but they won't be there anymore. And we'll be able to make all kinds of new rules to democratize the House of Representatives and to democratize the Senate too. It's obvious we need to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate. If we proceed on the course we are now and don't do something radically different, we will have to live with the filibuster again. And have most of our hopes and dreams, maybe all of them, killed by the filibuster in one way or another. The big money is blocking us from having a wonderful government and a wonderful country. We must get it out. We must get it out now. We don't have time to waste. We have the climate emergency to handle. Our very existence is at stake. Our collective existence as a species is at stake. The only way to save us is to follow the rule. I know you don't want to believe that. I know you want to believe that, well, if we elected Marianne Williamson or Robert Kennedy, that things would change. Well, first of all, it's going to be awfully difficult to elect them for reasons that Steve Wolfbrand is talking about in the comments right now, and for reasons we will talk about in just a few minutes. But the important thing to note is, even if somehow one of them slips through, they won't be able to get money out of politics. They'll be facing a Congress full of people beholden to big money. Most of the legislation they try to pass will be blocked. Maybe they'll be successful in getting Medicare for all. It's possible. Maybe they can get some modification of the filibuster to help a little. But we don't have time to do anything incremental anymore. Even electing RFK or Marianne Williamson or some other great candidates still to come forward, that is still incrementalism. From the electoral point of view, we can't do incrementalism anymore. We must sweep this system away. To sweep it away, we must sweep the toxic money away. And to sweep the toxic money away, we must obey the rule. No exceptions. Everybody must be defeated who takes the big money in the elections of 2024. I don't apply this to the elections of 2023. I know there are some. I hope you'll all apply the rule to those. But realistically, 2023, we have to build our movement. Right now, it is vanishingly small. And I doubt that we're going to have much influence for the rest of 2023. Hopefully, we can create a movement that will be there for all of us early in 2024. That's what we have to aim at. But we're almost at the end of April in 2023. And Dump the Corruption has hardly any followers. This must end. It must end. This is the most practical thing we can do to get the big money out of politics quickly. We need change. If we want that change, it is the rule that we have to follow. I look at your comments now. Okay, Dee, would you like to read the comments today?
Okay, let me open it up. We had the dogs barking here. That's what I had myself.
I know.
Okay.
I heard.
And I guess I didn't get it off in time. Or sometimes I think it's off and it's not.
That's all right. We got through it.
Yeah.
I was able to bark more loudly than the dogs.
Yes.
I was barking well tonight.
Very good. Kay says here, 910, pay go see. Exactly. And we have all the highs and everybody saying hello to each other. And then at 925, I hate that guy. I hate Clyburn too, says
Okay, yeah.
Kay.
He screwed Nina in Ohio.
Exactly.
And he screwed Bernie for the presidency.
Oh yeah, that whole thing was just so infuriating that these things takes time to get over because there was so much energy and you're so involved.
Yes.
South Carolina is so dirty that they want to make it the first state to vote in the primaries.
Steve, that comment is right on. It's so dirty they want to make it the first state because they locked it up for Biden. Well,
that was so ridiculous.
Is here from KRTD Media.
Yes, great. Hello.
Hello.
It's probably Shane.
Might be Shane, might be Jimmy.
Yeah, I know it could be Jimmy, but I'm thinking Jimmy's busy with her family and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably.
And then she goes on tonight for the midnight show.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, with Uncle Extra
Warren.
Bula. Extra Bula. He does it's Uncle Warren.
Yeah.
And
she goes on with the guy from Brooklyn.
Yes. Yeah, Kay's right. We needed Nina here badly. Yes. We all needed Nina. Yup, and 3 more bite the dust, Steve says. No surprise, Steve, says Kay. And then Steve says, I don't trust Porter, but she'll probably be our next governor.
But isn't she running for senator, Steve, and not for governor?
Steve is right here. Pelosi probably made more money than that by insider trading.
She probably did.
And it says RFK Jr. to formally announce on Wednesday. Sabby will be there. I'm beginning to think he can beat Sleepy Joe if they don't rig it too bad.
Steve? Now, just a comment on that. When Sabby holds that same opinion, then I'll begin to take it seriously. But I can't see how RFK Jr. will become more popular than Bernie was in 2016 and 2020. Okay. And look what they did to Bernie.
It was horrible.
It was horrible. And they didn't just do it to Bernie, they did it to us.
Yes.
And the big question here is whether you want to risk it being done to us again. I mean, whether you want to work like hell for RFK and risk it being done to us again, or work like hell for dump the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Get that in place for 2024. We may not get there, but if we do, we'll be holding the whip hand for 2024. They won't be able to rig anything
Mm-hmm.
because their guys are going to get slaughtered.
I think with BRICS, it's going to kind of help us as the world is shifting. The world's shifting, and so we'll see how things pan out. And I think it will benefit the people more. I know the elite are going to be disgruntled and running around like their heads are cut off, but we'll see how it all pans out.
We'll see how it all pans out, but I can't figure out how that's going to stop them from rigging the nomination again. What's been happening in the world may create a situation where somebody like Trump can come in on the Republican side and promise all sorts of things that people are going to believe, and they eat it up. Like
he's still got his group.
2016. I think that's the most likely reaction to what we're having in the world.
And these people that we talk about, even on, Brandy and D, the evangelicals, I can't get the word out, the Christians that are Zionist Christians, and they're all with him and pushing that agenda. So he's got the far right, the Orthodox Jews, and then he's got the far right Christians, the Zionists, and he's got all of those people that are diehard Trumpists. They're just so for Israel, and they feel that Trump is the answer. It's crazy.
Yeah, yes, it is. And I think all the things that are going on in the world carry the potential for a very right-wing reaction here.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get people to buy in to dump the corruption,
and not to follow the mainstream state media, they fall in for the state
corruption
media.
To follow the rule,
Right?
Then they'll be dumping the radical right candidates as well. Yeah, they'll be dumping all the Democratic candidates who take the big money, fine. But the radical right candidates have no problem with the big money.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to all be taking it.
Okay, now Kay here is using the Democratic line here. The Democrats, they use that line. Instead of saying vaccine choice, RFK is an environmentalist. And he does know that, and for example, Japan and they will make sure every vaccine is safe. If one child is injured or one child dies, they immediately take it back and they examine it and they find out something safer. Where the U.S. doesn't do that. Had the U.S. done that, my nephew Andrew would have never had the shot he had. Now it's been changed. But back when he was injured, the injuries had been going on for years. And my brother and his wife won the lawsuit. So it's a matter of vaccine safety and vaccine choice.
Yes, I agree. It's a matter of vaccine safety and vaccine choice. And I say that as someone, who was taking all my vaccines. I'm up to date, with all my vaccines, and Bonnie is too.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that the vaccines, okay, have helped us, made our COVID illness we just had and got over much less severe, okay, than otherwise would have been. But I do know a number of things. There's a case of a woman, okay, in England, okay, in the UK, who died very shortly after vaccination. That is being examined by the UK authorities. She died some time ago,
Hmm.
but it seems to be a very clear case which can be attributed to the vaccine. John Campbell was studying it on his program yesterday. Okay, it's also true. Okay, it's a matter of record that here in the U.S. and in the U.K. for most of the time, they were giving the vaccines using the wrong technique. You're supposed to aspirate, okay, when you're giving the vaccines, okay, so as to make sure that you're not shooting the vaccines into a vein.
Hmm.
And our doctors and nurses were not following that procedure here in the United States, and they were not following it, okay, in Great Britain either. And this resulted, okay, in a lot of deaths, which weren't strictly due to the vaccines. They were due to errors in how you administer the vaccines. Okay, so there's all kinds of safety considerations that have to do also with the kind of vaccine, okay, that you're taking. We don't have full data yet on all the different kinds of vaccines. For example, we don't have data yet on the safety of the Cuban vaccine. Uh, okay, the case I was talking about, okay, in England, was a case of someone who was given the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Okay, but uh, there's all kinds of data now, okay, around the world on different types of vaccines, okay, and outcomes, and that data hasn't been properly analyzed yet.
And that is why they have it when you get the shots. They have the stickers they put down, and they date everything with the stickers, so they know everybody who had gotten it from that particular group. So then when something does happen to one person, they can see and analyze all the people that were in that group.
Yes.
And that was the issue where my nephew was concerned. All the children were injured who had gotten it from that group. And since then, it has all been changed, but it just took too long to do it.
Yes. It just took too long to do it because they rushed all the vaccines in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they thought the only cure was the vaccines. And from what I've seen, they were very, very prejudiced in the way they evaluated uh, some of the other cures that were possibly effective. I'm speaking now, of course, of ivermectin.
Because they were pushing the vaccines, and that was just like the shareholders in Wall Street and all of that.
Yeah, there was a lot of economic incentive in here to safeguard the profits of the companies that were making the vaccines. Anyway, to go on with the comments. Okay, the next one is by Steve Wolfram. Would you like to go on
Yeah.
reading the
Also, 14-year-old girl in Japan died almost immediately after the jab. Ooh.
which vaccine was she taking?
Wait a minute. I think I've skipped down too far. Here it is. Here, why not just pass a law that candidates can only raise money through small individual donations?
Because the Supreme Court would invalidate that law. And also, the Congress would not pass that law because they're benefiting too much from the large individual donations from the PAC money and more recently from the super PAC money. They want all that money in.
Mhm.
And law is not the answer right now because we don't have a democracy governing the legislature, governing the Congress. We need to make that happen first. Then we can have our laws.
Mhm.
Steve Wolfbrand says,
Jimmy's been showing a globe with all of our bases around the world.
yes,
And Jimmy Dore's been getting into a lot of that. And the word revolution never comes out of Bernie's mouth anymore.
I noticed that.
Mhm.
Except when he's talking about his Our Revolution group, then it comes
Mhm.
out. But other than that, it doesn't.
Even our Supreme Court is corrupt, Clarence Thomas.
Yes, I have to say Clarence Thomas is not the only one
Right.
who's corrupt. There was a lot of big money in back of the campaigns for Amy Coney Barrett
Mhm.
and Gorsuch, okay, and Kavanaugh. A lot of big money behind their campaigns, and there was a lot of big money behind Sam Alito's campaign also.
Mhm. Bernie got a great space in this gov, says Kay. And it's great to see Brandy's here. Hey, y'all. Hey, Brandy.
Hey, Brandy.
And then here now we go to Steve's comment about the girl, the 14-year-old girl in Japan died almost immediately after the jab. And Steve, all down at the bottom after the hellos and stuff, has watched Dr. John Campbell on vaccines. He has changed his mind entirely. Well, it's just safety. It's vaccine safety is the issue. Like anything else, you want somebody that's not going to be sold on a particular thing, like saying everybody has to. You want to make sure it's safe.
Right, but we also have to mention that, but not only have the vaccines changed over a period of time, but also COVID has changed over a period of time. The present strain of COVID seems to be fairly mild. So the question arises, do we really need to have the vaccines to ward off this particular strain, okay, of COVID? Yeah, Steve says watch Dr. John Campbell on vaccines.
Hello, Dee and Joe.
Hey, Brandy.
Yeah.
I hope you're feeling okay. Uh, okay, I think we're about done for tonight.
Yes, we are. And tomorrow you'll be on Around the World with Brandy and Dee at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, I will be on Brandy and Dee around the world with Brandy and Dee at 8 o'clock.
Part 3.
Part 3, because we still have to finish that extremely hard to read article.
Yes.
God, that is a tough one. Steve says, I'm not taking any more jabs. In the present state of affairs, if there are no new variants, that's probably a good idea, Steve.
And it's always good, whether something's going around or not, to keep your immune system strong. Do the vitamins and to keep yourself up. Your immune system up, and continue to keep your hands washed and all the different things you were doing when we were worried about the COVID. Keep up those practices.
Yeah, Kay says, well, I'm out of here for tonight. Love you all.
We love you too, Kay.
We do. We really do.
Yes, it's a family here.
Yeah. Okay. Brandy says, Unholy said he is going to watch some of our shows.
That's great.
That'll be great. That
Yes.
would be great. I'm sure he'll have an interesting perspective
Yes.
to add. There is a new variant, the Arcticus, something like that. Who is warning? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay, Arcticus, a new variant of COVID. That's all we need.
Okay, because I heard the last new one I heard was the one that, wasn't, strong. It was just like people picking up stuff where they think they have a cold. And
Right, and that's the one that was driving out all the other variants because it was so transmissible.
mhm,
So it was displacing all the other variants because it was highly transmissible.
mhm.
Fortunately, okay, it was mild, but
I think you have to explain about aspirin, the injection.
yeah, the way you aspirate
Yeah.
before giving the vaccinations, okay, is you do the jab first, okay, then you pull it out and you see, okay, if there's any blood. If there's blood, you know you hit a vein and you go somewhere else, okay, with the vaccination. If there's no blood, then you put in, okay, the needle again and complete the vaccination. Okay, so that's actually the proper way to do a vaccination, and they were not doing that here. Steve says, I donated 200 to the library.
Yeah, Unholy's library.
Oh, I see. That's good. That's really good. Okay, so I think I'm going to say goodnight. Thank everybody for coming.
And about your coffee. Buy Joe a coffee.
Yeah, please buy me a coffee. And please visit, okay, my Patreon account. And thank you very much for that, Dee.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, because I always forget. Uh, Randy says, thank you, Steve. Steve says, good night, all. Andy Candy says, keep the masks on. Yeah, we're keeping our masks on when we go out to grocery stores or get into crowds or anything like that. Steve Day says, hi, just in from working on my road. Well, I'm glad you're here, Steve, but we're just about ready to say goodnight. So good night for now. There's going to be an Around the World with Brandy and Dee program tomorrow at 8 p.m. So please come to that. We're going to be completing our reading of the Wikipedia article on the expulsions and the flights of 1948. It seems like really a pretty good article, pretty solid. Steve smiles. Okay, so hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow night.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you and good night.
Thank you and good night.